You are now listening to Out of the Blank.
Well, welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank, and I feel bad for my guest because that's the third time he's heard this. I'm here with Mark Mckinnon.
How you doing? You all right? Yep, third time's the charm.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably the third time you've asked me if I'm all right, but I'm doing pretty okay, man. I'm a little upset for the audience members that are listening. Our audio recordings the first two times got really messed up, and so we're doing it a third time. So I'm going to ask Mark the main question here. Mark, what do you do?
I design board games. That's my jam in my spare time.
And it's perfect because what's happening right now in the world? We're in isolation and we're stuck with our family members. And what's one thing that can keep us from killing each other is playing a board game.
Or sometimes it makes people kill each other, but yeah, there's a lot more happening.
Look, when Uncle Jerry lands on the community chest, somebody's reaching for a knife. That's just happening. It's like you get $200 for pass and go my ass.
Just leave it sitting in the middle, just whoever reaches for it first.
So when we talk about board games, what are we talking about here? I know you were mentioning something, the Dungeons and Dragons, but more of a Mad Max style, an apocalyptic wasteland. And you put that on a box. It's like, is the point just eating people? Is that what we're doing in the game? Is that the mission?
So yeah, got four factions, kind of standard Mad Max fare. The world we know has come to an end. Not really went into why, but just all it's done is left kind of hardly anyone, and we're all fighting over what's left. So four factions, lots of big cars, some mutated dinosaurs, all coming in, killing each other, blowing each other up, fighting for the scraps of what's left.
So more like a Dungeons and Dragons, but in a different time period. More like a more modernized, more like apocalyptic style version. There's obviously is there cars? Is there, or is it just monsters?
No, it's all miniatures. So it's all three factions are cars. So they've got cool little vehicles. One of them's got a giant wrecking ball on the back. And then the fourth faction are, if you imagine like the mutants from Fallout,
The
if they
super
had a
mutants,
faction,
like it look like a little bit like Incredible Hulk, a little bit.
yeah, but instead of the guys, it's like the animals have mutated, so they're riding on like giant dinosaurs, kind of looking things,
Have
and
you seen the Simpsons movie?
yes,
You know when the squirrel jumps into the lake and comes out and he's got like 100 eyes and the dude just keeps Bart just keeps
yeah, yeah,
jabbing his
poking
eyes. You jab one more eye, it's a criminal offense.
it. Yes, I've got one that looks like a giant stegodon, and then there's if you imagine like a kind of a rhino with a bad attitude,
A rhino with a bad attitude.
and a
That
guy on
is
it with a minigun.
that is a guy on it with a minigun. Okay, so this is starting to turn in a little bit like, I don't know if you've ever played the game for Xbox, but it's called Ark Survival.
No,
It's a little bit, it's more like a very very difficult Minecraft. Like Minecraft is a little bit more basic. This is like you need to eat, you starve, you get cold, your guy freezes, you got to do all these things. It's like playing Minecraft on survival, but it's way more realistic. You have to build, and when you build things, there's no locking into place like a certain block. It's like you have to spin it in direct degrees and stuff, and if you get a degree off, it's like your house is all fucking tilted and shit. And what's weird is the funniest part is like you start to notice in the first 5 minutes your dude poops. Like you just look down and there's a freaking turd right on the ground. You're like, okay, but it's so like they have the humanistic features like Skyrim over Oblivion have. You get dodo birds as pets. You get all these weird things. You start riding dinosaurs, getting little pets. Like you end up getting like cybernetic armor for your dinosaurs. But like when you found the idea for this, what sparked it? Were you just playing, Uno, and you were like, if this guy skips me one more time, I'm going to be super pissed?
no. So what happened was I was playing a lot of Fallout, and I tend to just pick a direction. I just wander off and I just explore. And then what happened was I found it kind of, I played for 4 hours I'd went into a couple of buildings, killed a lot of ghouls, attacked some super mutants, and I realized I hadn't really like achieved anything in 4 hours. And I kind of was like, I want to do something better with my time. But it's like 4 hours, and I didn't really get very far. You know, that way Fallout is littered with cars, and I'm like, how cool would it be if one of them actually worked, and you could drive to where you wanted to go. So that was the kind of beginning of the idea, and then I quickly realized that it wasn't going to work the way that I wanted it to, kind of like Fallout, where you could kind of explore the map, because multiplayer, there was no way of not knowing where everyone else was. So it just kind of evolved from there into kind of basically what would happen when we all met. It just turns into a big battle.
What would you typically describe the landscape as? More, I know you said like more like a Mad Max kind of deserted, kind of like apocalyptic, look like a bomb went off. But like, where are you getting a lot of your inspiration? I'm guessing around town, certain areas. Are you displaying in that way? Are you doing it in a maybe like a tropic city, or maybe like Dubai or something, where like buildings are all falling over and shit? And it's like the Sahara Desert, where it seems like you can't find any fucking cactuses to drink out of.
Yeah, it's 100% the Sahara. So the fluff goes that our cities have been wiped out. There's really not anything left of our civilization at all. So there's no towns, no cities. So they all kind of rove about in these kind of convoys, and that's their homes as well as their kind of their livelihoods. So yeah, it's just like desert,
Well, kind of
big
like
rocks.
a little bit of add-on from like Borderlands a little bit. There's those loot drops. There's those certain convoys are coming by. You can choose to rob them, kind of like you can in Red Dead Redemption when someone's just literally just going around killing everybody. You're like, I'm just trying to cattle my farm, man. I'm just trying to get these horses in a pen. And next thing you know, some dude just comes
Yeah,
over and shoots you in
a
the head.
man, a man's got to eat.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, so that's what started it all.
And like that's interesting too, because like if you look at Fallout New Vegas, for people that are listening, Fallout New Vegas takes place in a Vegas style scenario. So you're literally dealing with apocalypse, all these bombs drop, people go into these bomb shelters, they come out in the world, they got to learn to live on with all these mutants and everything. Well, New Vegas is like you're dealing with Vegas, so it's run down, but like you would think in apocalypse, like people still want to fucking gamble. Like that's still a
Yeah,
priority basically over food. So they're still doing gambling. They're trying to live life as normal, even though nothing is really normal. Buildings are destroyed and things. That is a amazing kind of like, if you really want to take it into a movie reference, you could look at it a lot like Mad Max, but also I Am Legend. Um,
yeah.
you can really go full free roam creativity on that. There's not a whole lot of restrictions. I mean, one of the most boring games, and for anybody that's ever played Grand Theft Auto, try playing that game and following every single traffic rule, trying to live it like a normal life. You know how difficult that is? You sit there and stop at a freaking red light. Next thing you know, somebody's like walks right into the side of your car, and then you get 4 stars. You're like, what the hell?
I swear to God, I didn't do anything, officer.
Gets out and starts throwing you out of the car. It's like wasted already. It's like, hold on a second, man. I just trying to order some chicken in the drive-through, and you're pulling me out of my car.
Yeah, and they're never really designed to be played like that, but were they? So it'd be weird trying to do it.
Well, even though your thing has a lot of characters and a little bit of structure to it too, with dealing like going to the races and classes a little bit. I know you were talking about like you wanted it to be more of like a hunted style, like the game Evolve, which is like you got a small group of people, up to like maybe 4 or 5 players, in a small little group trying to go for a quest or whatever the main mission is, but also having side things that come up. If anybody knows about Dungeons and Dragons, it has a structure to it, but relies heavily on creativity. And when you're coming up with these classes, what races are you dealing with? Are you dealing with orcs? Are we talking about Tauren? Are we talking about like giant ox people, super mutants?
I tried to keep it not too far fetched, so I still tried to keep everybody kind of human. So I've not created any kind of classes other than that, but I have created monsters. I like to create different kind of monsters. I mean, there's that many different ones in mythology, but trying to kind of use some of that without just copying something straight out of Greece, straight out of Clash of the Titans or something like that.
Do you like it more medieval style? I find that's where a lot of my fascination for stuff comes from is when we go to like the ancient mythical folklore. Like New Vegas is fun to me, but I mostly play that when I get super sick of dealing with a lot of the old school shit. Like I would like a flashlight, you know? I don't want to have to carry a torch around everywhere. I would like to have a little flashlight or maybe some music playing, without some dude with a giant lute just following you everywhere, serenading you everywhere you go. Like, bro, I'm trying to sleep, man. Hit the snooze.
Like The Witcher.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I love that style of it because it's so fascinating to look back at all the old style stuff. Like seeing those giant Greek statues was always what had me fascinated with mythology. Got to think back then with primitive technology, they were building shit I couldn't do with the most advanced Tesla or screwdriver you gave me today.
I like going both ways. So I either go either really low tech or really high tech. It just depends what my idea is. But yeah, the first one was a bit kind of futuristic. The next one's going back to kind of medieval times. So yeah, that's going to be swords, shields, as you've seen, big axes.
And even when you're doing like creative stuff too, when you're dealing like with an apocalyptic thing, imagine you get a character that has two fucking heads. Like he's just got a partial head coming out of his shoulder, and that one's like you want to talk about like those inner thoughts, like people got those inner voices in their head telling them like jump off the bridge. You're like, what? I don't want to jump off the bridge. It's like just do it. You have that dude that's just all negative and stuff, so you got to carry him around the whole time, so your character's just getting depressed the whole time.
There was it Futurama, I think, where they went to an alternate universe, and that's what they had. Everybody had two heads, and one was a happy head, and one was a sad head.
Different emotions. Imagine having a character in a game where like he's like one of the best like knights, like Sir Arthur or something, but he has like the most unstable emotions possible. He's just like like crying every 5 minutes. It's like this character sucks.
Yes, he's about to fight something, and he gets a sudden pang of the guilt, and he's like, I don't want to shed any more blood. I can't do it.
Do you try and include a lot of these into the tabletop game, like a lot of the pieces to it, or do you prefer that people go and buy their own, like in a separate pack? Like Heroescape, that was a fun ass game. We've talked about that before. The amount of lands, the amount of characters you can get from monks, cowboys, robots, the whole 9 yards. You could choose whatever specification you wanted, but the one crappy part about it was they were separate packs. So you'd buy the board game, a little couple pieces would come with it, like a starter kit, and then you'd have to spend another $30 or something dollars to get like 12 or 14 characters to add on to it. And I was like, damn, this is like DLC with real life.
What when I design a game, I try and make it as replayable as possible. So everything comes in the box you need. There's no need to buy anything else. But within that, like all the map tiles that I use, they're always double-sided and they're interchangeable. So you can create your own map every single time you play it, and it's always going to be a different game. So I try and do that so that people want to go back and play it. There's nothing worse than when you play a game once and you've seen it all, and you're like, right, well, I've spent that money now. What do I do with it?
Well, it's like when you play a board game or something. What's really weird is it's a different scenario every single time. There are some video games that come out now that people play it once and they'll never play it again because once you play it, it's the same exact story. There's no other different outcomes that'll happen. It's the same thing every time, every single time. Like, oh, the zombie's going to pop out here. This is going to happen here. This is the mission. This is what's going to happen next. We got to get ready for it. You can beat it on a harder difficulty, but what makes Monopoly so much fun, what makes Oblivion or Skyrim or all these RPG, World of Warcraft, all these other games is you can do whatever you want. If you want to play Monopoly and not buy a single property, you can do that. If you want to play Uno and just be an asshole and worry about the luck of the cards, that's why gambling is so fun. It's that feeling of I might win and I might not, but it's a fair enough shot.
It's also you can't predict what other people are going to do, so it doesn't matter. Even if you have your plan in Monopoly, right, I'm going to buy all the purples, and then somebody comes along, they've not bought a single property all game, and then just lands on the purple, goes, right, that's mine, yoink.
And it's weird because if you get the small properties out in the beginning of Monopoly, you end up getting a hotel or something on them, you screw everyone over because you always get like a 6 or something when you're near the blue property. So you go over the go, you pass it, and you land on the one right after go, which is a purple property. So you hit that. Next, you know, you're paying like 8 grand to somebody. You're already in debt to your family.
Yeah, so we've talked about this before because my Monopoly board looks different to yours. I've got all the properties are different names on mine. It took us a while to work out what we were talking about last time.
It's funny too because like if you look at like what's happening with everybody being stuck inside their house, like this is a prime time for board games too. Like what have you kind of looked at on focusing towards with your board games? Are you just doing a lot more of trying to play the game yourself and understand a little bit more about it, kind of perfecting it in a way?
So definitely solo. There's a lot of games now that have a solo variation. So for the poster pop game, the Mad Max one, it's called Wreck and Ruin, and I released solo rules for that months ago. But I recently kind of linked them back into my Facebook group and all that, saying, "Look, guys, just remember this is here. Like, if you're stuck in the house and you've got nobody to play with, it's there." I'm working on loading up into Tabletop Simulator, which is something that's on Steam, and that allows you to play board games online. So it's the whole kind of, it's not a computer port of a board game. It is the actual board game. So you still pick up the dice and you still roll them and you pick up a card and you move your piece just like you would playing. But you're sitting in your own house, and I could be playing you at Monopoly on it.
Well, I'm gonna do you a little thing here. You're gonna teach me how to play this game, Wrecked and Ruined. So what I want you to do is, if we're sitting down and playing this board game, we have the board set out in front of us. Take me through the steps of how do I choose my character? What are you prioritizing? If you're gonna try and define a character, you're gonna ask me some questions of what I want to be, what do I choose to be. Take me through it. Let's explain the game to me, but kind of like if you're teaching somebody to play right as soon as you're teaching it.
Right. So first of all, you've got four different factions, and they're all loosely linked to a kind of general play style. So you have the Reapers, who are aggressive. So they're all about death and destruction. They do eat people.
They eat
Um,
people. I gotta put that in the checkbox for positives. Holy crap! Let's put a pin in that one.
so then you've got the Salvos, who are your kind of just your normal wastelanders, but they kind of stick together for safety in numbers. So they're all about protection, outlasting the fight.
So are they good in defense type characteristics? They have like a maybe like some kind of abilities that could help them survive. Like if you have like you just landed on a dust storm, your group has to hide now. It's like, hang on a second, I got skin of steel because I drink a lot of gasoline.
So these guys have like a shield generator, which stops them from taking any damage, and then they can also like repair their vehicles. Like they can repair all their
You
vehicles.
got to tell me this stuff because if like it's like when you're playing Yu-Gi-Oh and you're going against somebody and it's like the guy's just like this his effect is it destroys all monsters. You're like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And then you grab the card and read it. It's like it will destroy all monsters if you have this summon, this summon, this summon, this summon. It's like, dude, it doesn't you just read the first sentence. You got to read the whole thing.
Yeah, so you've got another two then. So next one's the Rune Army. They're high tech. So they've got the kind of all the coolest stuff, the best training. So they can summon in a drone to help them.
Have you ever seen
Uh,
Hellboy, the Golden Army?
oh yeah, yeah.
That's what
One
I
of my
think
favorite
of
films.
when you just explain that faction. That's what I think of is those giant cogged machines, like the dwarven type stuff, like the gold dudes, like all cogs and
Yeah,
moving around and stuff.
yeah. So these guys, if you imagine the new Batmobile, that's that's the kind of feel that the Rune Army have. So if you like that kind of style of vehicle, that kind of high tech, kind of stealth looking thing, that's the Rune Army.
Like Kit from Knight Rider.
Yeah, but in now times, like futuristic times, yeah, futuristic kit.
Right on.
And then finally you've got the Desert Kin, so they're the guys that ride about on the giant mutant dinosaurs.
Giant mutant dinosaur. Like they evolved into them?
So the world, there's no longer cities. There's not even any plants. on my board. It's literally just sand and rock. So all the animals were forced to evolve. So somehow they've came out with big giant they've all turned into giant lizard-like creatures. But the desert kin have tamed these creatures and they ride about on them. So that's how you end up with a rhino with a bad attitude and a guy sitting on top with a minigun.
This is where I get really fascinated because I'm like, immediately I want to join one of these factions. And then you said it's all covered in rock. So I'm like, I want to just turn into a hermit that goes off on his own, goes nuts, just living out in like the wasteland, like getting too much sun exposure where he starts hallucinating. Then just starts putting googly eyes on every single rock and just starts having rock friends.
Yeah, there's what was the name of there was a program on Last Man Standing, was it?
Yeah.
And that's what he does. It draws the faces and all the balls in the pub.
Are you talking to, oh yeah. Last Man
Last
on
Man on
Earth.
Earth.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Last Man on Earth. Yeah, that's
he's got all the friends in the pub, isn't it? It's all the balls with the eyes on them.
well, it's like the same thing. Like I wanted to save this for later because I hate talking about Corona so much. But like, what happens with Corona and all this stuff that's going on? It turned into a fucking movie. It feels like I'm living in I Am Legend. Everybody's wearing masks and shit. And I literally have been telling everybody, don't get the cure vaccine when it comes out. Wait 6 months, because what happened is in I Am Legend, they found the cure for cancer. They injected a bunch of people in it, and everyone that got the shot turned into zombies. That's all I'm saying is I'm not going to be the first one up for those trials. I want to watch and see what happens.
Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, you don't want to be taking any chances. And yeah, stay in the house if they're going to turn into zombies. Last thing you want is Corona zombies.
I definitely think the Reapers faction definitely has a point to it. I think sometimes you're in a snowstorm or you're in a sandstorm and there's no food around, you got to eat somebody. I mean, it only takes 7 days if you're stranded on an island with someone till you decide that you want to eat that person. So you got to figure out who's bashing who upside the head with a rock. The other faction that seems really cool is riding a rhino with a bad attitude. That faction seems like I could get a lot of stuff done, mostly because it's like being very resourceful, even though you kind of are a mutant. But there's also a thing you got to keep in mind. If an apocalyptic bomb goes off, everyone thinks like the people that survive are going to be, ripped clothing, a little messed up, maybe some radiation damage. But then you look at Fallout that has ghouls. Okay. The one thing Fallout doesn't have that I think it should have is what about the people that survive but get melted into the fucking street? You know what I'm talking about? Like your
The
legs are
melted
just
zombies.
your legs are just a puddle and they're stuck to the freaking cement. So you just got to sit there and someone's got to keep bringing you food in the middle of the street. Like you just see you, Mark, you're in the middle of the street after this bomb goes off. I'm walking out and you're like under a street light. I'm like, here you go, Mark. Just give you a water. You're like, thanks, man. I'm like, where do you pee? And you're like, I don't know.
I don't have anything to pee with.
I'm just a torso up, bro. I don't know where it all goes. I think I'm in the street. I can tell. I can feel the pipelines.
Yeah. Don't question it as long as it works.
Well, that was like a story for a superhero too. There was a superhero that was like a kid in high school. He was like a nerd, and then there was the high school football coach or the coach, the gym teacher. And there was a bomb that went off in the school, and the gym teacher grabbed the kid and tried to save him, like, shield him from the blast, and their
Yeah.
bodies fused together. And what happened is it was the body of the coach, but the mind of the kid. And he was a superhero. It was like had all these mutant like radiation powers, but there was a second voice, and that second voice was the gym teacher. So he was inside his head like a ghost. He would talk to him and all these things. I was like, that's a fucking trip and a half when you start hearing about that.
I'm not going to lie. See, when you started talking about that, I thought you were going to say they were fused like at the arm. So I'd be swinging them about like a weapon.
Freaking just like got the little small guy on one arm. There's a character you can do, dude. You can do like a Mad Max style, get like this giant dude, and then have like his arm fused, and it's just a person. Like it's just like a
Just
really
another person.
like a really small we call them little people, not midgets. Like have one of them hooked to his arm, so it's like a wrecking ball, and he's just swinging them. And this little thing's got like a sword or something and trying to slash people. So it's like your hand is a person.
I was very angry. He'd have to be angry.
Yes, yeah, I'd be pissed too if I was somebody's hand. Imagine he's got to take his pants off to go to the bathroom. You got to be that thing that's like, oh, damn it.
Look away. Just look away.
I need to wipe my ass. Use your other hand, man. There's no, there's nobody on that hand. What's the biggest problem or thing that occurs into Wrecked and Ruin? What do you see as the biggest thing besides fighting the other factions? Like if you're you can't really play solo player, I'm guessing, right?
Oh, I've got the solo rules out for it. So with solo, you still have the other factions, but they're just AI controlled. So it's all done through like a flow chart. Basically said, right, this vehicle, this is what it'll do under these circumstances. You just follow it through, and it does its actions based on that. So yeah, you can still play it solo. Just need to use one of the other factions, or you'd set it up with all four factions and just let them all fight each other if you wanted. You just move them where they need to go.
Do you find that a lot of the thing kind of has to deal with like using your imagination for it too? Besides having like the little pieces to kind of help you visualize it too, but a lot has to be like you have to be very good creativity wise. It's a better probably in groups. Like Dungeons and Dragons is fun because it's in groups. It's a giant campaign getting around with your friends. I mean, we talked about before the essentials of a board game was being in the real moments and having that creativity with your friends. You know, you're playing online all the time, and we talked about the tragedies of that, like just people, you know, the online feature is fun because you can connect with people, but it's way better when they're right in front of you and in the real moment to it.
Yeah, I think you get a better connection when you got the people there, and there's just something a bit more fun. Like, yeah, you could be playing Call of Duty online, and you could make this most awesome shot, but there's nobody there to go, "Oh, dude, that was amazing." And I think you need to kind of have a bit of that as well. So you get out with the board games, like you can do something, and that way it could all hinge on the roll of the dice, and everybody's watching this die to see how it's going to fall. Like, you know, is it going to hurt them? Is it not? And everyone's like, "Oh, I can't
Yeah,
believe that just happened."
there's that real feel, man. Like when I remember I was saying about playing zombies and you know, we would turn the lights off. Like when I was like 14 years old, we'd turn these lights off and we'd be in my buddy's house like 3 o'clock in the morning drinking like a Mountain Dew or something, playing Call of Duty Zombies. So we have the lights all turned off, windows shut. It's 3 o'clock in the morning and all I hear is and you're just like, what the like looking all around and shit, like checking behind you. I mean, sometimes I'll be like this happened to me with a book, which I'm embarrassed to say, but I was reading a very, very intense book, a scary one, I would say, like a murder thing. And immediately I got goosebumps and I just like, I turned around, there's just a wall behind me. I'm like, what the hell did I turn around for? Like, there's
Yeah.
no possible way, but like, it's happened in a podcast. I've talked to people that have like a ghost story or some type of spooky paranormal thing that happens and my hair starts standing up on my neck. I'm like, I don't know if I'm scared right now or I'm just fascinated, but this is the weirdest feeling in the world. And you only get that from like real moments. Like playing, like, don't get me wrong, playing Resident Evil, all those types of game online, they're fun. You know, they are get scary at some points, but I've always had way more fun when I've been at my buddy's house playing them. Like where, you know, Domino's pizza boxes on the ground, freaking Mountain Dews and everything lined up all around the TV and stuff. You know, we got to piss, but we're playing the game, so we're just
Yeah.
ignoring it. And you know, you start hearing and you're just all by yourself, you just hear somebody start screaming. It's like, shut up, dude, shut up, you're scaring me, go in there, go in there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun, and you can't beat that whole, like, my game's got cards in it, and see when you like if you collect a new card and when you give it to somebody and they just go, you just see them and they look at the card and they go, ho ho ho, like, I know exactly what I'm going to use this for, and you're like, shit, what's he got? And he just sits there going, I know exactly what I'm going to do now.
Do you try and get a lot of your ideas for these things? I know we talked about it kind of coming to you just randomly, get these ideas that pop into your head, but like we talked about Comic-Con before too. I apologize for the listeners out there that didn't hear our other recordings, but you know, you're just gonna have to bear with us because we know a little bit more about each other.
We're
Um,
bros now.
yeah, we're brothers in arms. And if you look at like the characters, like Yu-Gi-Oh is interesting because there's a bunch of characters to collect from. Each card is a little bit different and unique. But do you have equipment pieces that go on with it? Like you know, like, oh, you found a 1969 Chevy Impala. Good job. And it's like a card and you get that picture of the car on there. Like does that happen?
So mine are, so it's called salvage. It's equipment that you can find. So that ranges from maybe an extra fuel tank, which allows you a free move to an RPG, which you can use to just fire at somebody and blow them up.
You
And
got one RPG shot. What are you going to do with it? I'm going to point it at the sky and shoot. So it's like a flare, but it's going to be cool because it's going to explode and we all get to see it.
but there's all different cool things that you can do, and it just some of them were just for fun. So there's one card that's called the Gambit. So what happens is each vehicle has a set number of attacks. That's how many dice you'd roll when you're fighting. But the Gambit allows you to roll up to 5 dice, regardless of your attack. But any that miss hurt you. So you need to weigh up. It's like a kind of all-out attack, but it can also fail spectacularly.
You said 5 dice. I immediately think of playing Yahtzee, and you have all the balls or the little dice in the cup, and you roll out onto the table. Next thing you know, you got like 100 dice flying all over the house and everything. They're all rolling under the table and shit. It's like, what did that one land on? Don't touch it. Don't touch it.
Yeah. Every convention I attend, guaranteed, there's always somebody that rolls the dice right off the table, and then you're hunting in this hall as people mill past trying to find this die wherever it's landed.
It's like you do a bet and you're like, you flick the quarter up in the air and it misses and drops on the floor. It's like, I said tails. Next thing you know, you look at it, it's freaking heads. You just pick it up and see it's tails. It's like, you son of a bitch. I know what it was. Do you ever have like when you're designing this stuff too, like when we talk about the factions, all right, so I'm gonna pick a faction now. I'm definitely gonna side with those mutants, man. If I was gonna do it through a first playthrough, I would probably pick the humans, the ones that are really good with tech. Only because that's like I don't want to be known as like a freak. But I also like if I was gonna do a second playthrough, usually your first characters, you're spending like an hour or so on their appearance, trying to make it as much as you as possible, get all the abilities right. You're reading through everything, like, all right, my character is insomniac, so he's gonna fall asleep at random times, so I'm gonna lose a turn. Maybe that's not a good effect to use. And you're reading through everything. The first character is always the most effort into. Then your second character you make on any game is just a mess around character. Like, I'm going to do everything the opposite way. Instead of being super nice and thinking 2 hours in a conversation on my decision shaping the game, I'm going to be an asshole. I did it with Batman. I was like, I'm going to play this like I would if I was trying to be Batman. I did all the positive answers. And then when I went the second time through, I was just an asshole. I just wouldn't answer anybody. I would just be like, well, I'm Bruce Wayne. And they're like, well,
Yeah,
they'll remember that. Yeah.
So yeah, you could play them whatever way you want. So the way I've done it is your faction gives you your overall feel for your play style, but your special abilities are still randomly generated within a pool of 4. So even though you know your Desertkin and you know you have those 4 powers, you don't know which 2 you're going to end up with. So there's always that. You can never really plan exactly for what's going to happen. And that's part of the fun. Like, you don't want to, if you had the 4 cards and you had the choice, would you always pick the same card?
Is there abilities that you can get? Like, are we talking about class specifications? We have hunters and stuff like that. Is there a magic guy?
No, so the Desertkin, so they've got 4 powers. So they have the ability to call in a feral Rhinax, right? So that's just a pissed off mutated rhino. So you basically get an extra vehicle that just drives about ramming into other people's cars.
Can I add a character to the game? Is that allowed?
No,
No.
you
Damn.
can name them.
Can I get more than just a rhino? Because immediately I want to create a dove that is lined with grenades. So he's got a grenade belt to him. So I just like fly into him, Aardvark. And it's like, why do you call your dove Aardvark? I'm like, I couldn't think of a better nickname. And then this bird just flies into people and explodes.
Just make it super confusing for everyone.
Well, that was always so interesting.
Come
Like,
Aardvark.
yeah, playing World of Warcraft or something. What was always so much fun is like magic, like turning into animals and stuff. Like that was always the class I would pick. I really like the whole spell witchcraft style behind stuff, like the folklore behind it and everything. I find that gets fascinating. I mean, Who doesn't want to cast a spell? Like, you can summon creatures and shit. Like, you know how dope that would be? Just snap your fingers and be like Morgan Freeman, which is God, and a squirrel comes out. Like, doing that in a board game would be so much fun if you could like do a way where Dungeons and Dragons, like you can kind of create like, oh, there's this goblin that comes out. He's got two arms on top of his head, and he uses a back scratcher as a weapon. It's like when in your game, do you try and let that creativity fly a little bit? Like somebody can just randomly kind of, I think of something, or you just try and let them follow the structure and choose what to do with the items that are given?
So mine is more structured than that. So they can basically do what they want with the vehicles, but there's certain rules still that they have to follow. So you could give your vehicles all names if you wanted. You could call the giant Stegosaurus. You could call him Toodles if you want. And
What animals do I have the capability of choosing from if I choose the mutants? Because immediately I'm thinking, do I get a gorilla with a freaking machine gun attached to his freaking head, or do I get sharks with laser beams attached to their head? I'm very curious now.
so the Desert King, each faction's got 5 vehicles. So you start off with 2 scouts. So they are your fast guys. So
Ostriches.
for the Desert King, yeah, they are like lizard ostriches. So kind of like a naked chocobo from Final Fantasy.
Can they climb walls and shit since they're lizards? Like stick to the glass or something?
No, they just run really fast, but they have the ability to attack while on the move, whereas other vehicles have to stop and attack. They could do a drive-by.
We look, that's what I'm saying. We can do a social thing now since we're going to capitalize on. I'm going to help you with this board game. That means if you do you have a theme song yet? Because I've talked to some people that can design a song for you. I'm definitely like, you have a graphic animator friend. I'm definitely going to try and see if I can find some people that will maybe draw up something who are really good at it. I want to see a like cut together film, a little cartoon animation of just some dude on a fucking ostrich running after this guy driving like a nice muscle car, and like he's shooting his like whatever his Uzi out the window, whatever gun he's got, and this ostrich just come up, run like up to the side window and just stick his head in and rip the dude out of the car like
Yeah,
ejection seats.
throw them away.
Freaking, that would be dope.
Yeah, so uh, you might want to go Reapers then. I think I might have to change you to a Reaper
Does that mean I
because the
gotta eat
Reapers
people?
Reapers have the ability to hijack, so they can steal cars off other people.
And I also get the ability to eat people.
Yeah, well, it's just part of their fluff.
Well, everybody out there listening, I'm letting you know that this Reaper idea was what I was switched to. I did not choose it, but I'm not going to deny the perk of eating people. That sounds fucking amazing.
So the idea is that they believe that they gain the power of those that they eat. So it's a kind of very, very tribal kind of situation with the Reapers. So they follow the strongest warrior, and basically, if they don't like him, if somebody's stronger, they'll kill him, eat him,
A
put his
lot
skeleton on the hood of their car.
like the Mayans a little bit in a way, a little bit more tribal, kind of primal aspect to them, more like only the strong survive mentality.
Exactly, yeah. There's no room for weakness with these guys. Basically, yeah, you you fight or you die.
Cold like a Reaper.
Yeah.
I like that. Does that mean I have to wear dark clothing, or can I be the Reaper that wears like an all white suit?
Yeah, you can go in with like a Saturday Night Fever number if you want.
Can I wear Eddie Murphy's suit from like the Raw series that he did? Or he's wearing the giant purple latex thing?
Yeah, you do that. Yeah, it'd probably be easier to wipe down all that blood and guts.
These are my assless chaps.
Just don't want anyone taking a bite of it, but that's the only problem.
So, what do I get to choose weapon or vehicle wise from the Reapers then? Do I get a horse? It sounds like I get a horse at like when it runs, it has fire that comes out the back, or maybe a horse that's hooked in with like a car engine, so its ass is like a giant V8.
So Reapers they've got all the kind of stinky old diesel guzzlers. So but their cars are all quite aggressive looking, so they're covered in spikes and skulls and big guns.
Do I get I already know what car I'm going to choose if I get a diesel. I'm going to have to choose a Ram Charger. One of those old style, like Bronco looking vehicles, man. Those giant, big ass trucks where it's like there's no power steering. I tried to drive one of those one time and it didn't have an exhaust pipe. So the exhaust fumes would come through the car. So you have to drive with the window down and there's no power steering. So trying to turn that thing was a freaking beast, man. That car was all metal. There was a rusted hole in the floor too. You had to be careful because like you could step and your foot could go right through that.
Well, each faction's got a vehicle called a wrecker, and it's his job basically just to ram everything else out its way. And the Reaper Wrecker, that has like, so it's the shape of like a Land Rover, like a Discovery, and what it's got is a giant log coming through the windscreen out of the front bonnet, and then on the end of it is a giant welded metal skull that it uses basically just to destroy other cars.
Is the Reapers kind of main thing? Like, are they known as like the evil ones, I guess, in the story or in the kind of the game a little bit? Like everyone, all the other factions talk about like they're crazy, they eat their own, or they do all these types of things. Like they're savages. They're known as like the barbarians in a way. Because when you were mentioning the tech people, they sound to me more like the nerds. I'm immediately thinking glasses. You know, they're over there using glue to make models and shit, and I'm over here devouring Jim's cousin.
So the Reapers, yeah, they would be the baddies. The Salvos would probably be the goodies, and then Desertkin and the Rune Army are probably a bit more kind of neutral.
The mutants sound a little bit more evilish in a way. It seems like, you know, a slight thing would piss them off. It feels like they would get more offended towards certain things. You know, you stole my sweet roll. It's like I didn't freaking take shit, man. I'm over here, you know, eating this biscuit.
That's it, yeah. Like they just mind their own business, but yeah, piss them off and they'll come at you with everything.
Now, is it possible if you have people playing multiplayer or if you have a couple people playing in, if people choose different factions, can they have different stories to follow or do they have to end up grouping together?
So you just have one person controlling each faction, but you are fighting over the technology. So one person has to find it and then protect it from the next person. So kind of a 4-player game. Each faction, you're trying to deal with what the other person's just done. So you can go out and get your own stuff, but you also have to stop them from collecting as well. So there's a bit of that kind of, I could get my own points, or I could just take my big ass wrecker and just ram right into you, take you right off the points, and I'll steal them for myself.
And the whole point is being able to destroy the other player, you know, whoever comes out on top.
It's actually, it comes down to whoever collects the most stuff.
So you got to be a
So
hoarder.
yeah, but the problem is nobody else wants you to hoard. Everybody wants
Oh,
to hoard.
you got to start raiding people. It's like what happens when you get into an apocalyptic or zombies apocalypse thing. Everybody's trying to take something from somebody.
Exactly. So yeah, you're either trying to get your own stuff, or you're trying to stop somebody else from getting their stuff
And
and
when
taking it
someone's
for yourself.
supplies drop all the way to zero, then that's the loser.
So just whoever has the most at the end of, we normally play over a set number of turns, depending how many people you have. So like a 4-player, you'd play over 4 rounds, and then whoever's got the most at the end of it is crowned winner.
Dude, this sounds like an amazing game. How much is it to buy? I want to make sure that it is reasonable price, but not too much more expensive than a Ouija board at Toys R Us, because for some reason we still sell those at Toys R Us.
We don't even have Toys R Us here anymore. They've closed it.
You have to be above the age of 8 to summon the devil, and you have to be below the age of 99. So I don't understand what that's all about, but I guess, you know, Toys R Us is like, screw it, kids can have fun.
If you're over 99, I think you've pretty much got a direct line to wherever you're going anyway. Like
If you're
somebody's speaking to you.
if you're 99 years old, you're definitely trying to contact a couple of your friends because I don't think anybody you know is alive anymore.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think you waste your time with the devil.
And even like when we're talking about price? Do you make it affordable? Do you make it a little bit of a thing, or is it just still an idea at this point?
So the game, I I don't know what the dollar works out at, but it's £50. So I think it's about $1.2 to the pound just now or something. So that probably makes it just under $60 maybe. But everything you have in there is there to be played. You could play it every time you play it. It'll be a different game. You use 7 tiles for your map, but there's 10 in the game, and they're all double-sided, and you make them into whatever shape you want.
Have,
So
have
yeah,
you tried to get it picked up by any other major board game designers or companies, seeing if it's like a good idea for them to maybe dive a little bit of money into it?
I did actually have a couple approach me a few years back, but I felt at that point I'd already gone far enough. I'd gone too far myself to kind of hand it over at that point. So like normally what you do is if you want to get it published by another company, you take the idea to them, but you wouldn't bother with art or anything like that because they might change it all. They might decide don't like the style, or they might not even like the theme. So I went for post-apocalyptic, and they might decide this works better if we're unicorns and we're going out to collect rainbows.
Unless the unicorns have freaking Gatling guns attached to their head, I don't know if it's going to
Well,
be better.
that would be the unicorn game that I would make.
That's a
It'd
good
be
one.
a unicorn that shot lasers out its horn and could cut other unicorns in half.
Farted out soft serve ice cream, so you never go hungry.
Yeah.
Immediately, just like throughout this, I'm going to toss an idea out at you. You have the Wrecked and Ruin, you have your other variation, but do you have a variation that is in the Ice Age apocalypse? I'm talking about like you have to survive in the Ice Age. There's a certain countdown or a certain number of plays until the Ice Age happens, and you have to make sure you have enough supplies to get to safety and be able to survive it. So that means, like the mutant class you're talking about, instead of having a rhino with a bad attitude, you have a freaking woolly mammoth on like with like an eating disorder, so it's got to run after everything and try and devour everything. Like I already immediately started thinking you have a DPS creature or a DPS mount or something. Like you talk about the wrecker. You could do something like a saber-toothed tiger, that maybe has 2 heads. So you're like, there you go. And then you have different factions. You have the colonists, or maybe some people you can invite in that are like Vikings, maybe even coming by. You have these people with spears and stuff, and then you have another thing that comes over with a bunch of Vikings on a boat that are they have the ability to have dragons or something.
I've never really done anything like that, but the idea was I gave in the box, I give you the core rules, but then after that, it's a sandbox. What you do with it is completely up to you.
Well, if you give me free roam, I'm going to create some weird things like a dove with a freaking dynamite attached to it that I can just light and throw.
You would need to light it, the dove would fly.
Yeah, but I would have to light the dynamite and tell the dove to fly over there. It's like sending a message, except this message has a freaking packs a punch. It's an M80 to the face.
You need to get more creative. So what about a
More
dove that
creative than a freaking dove with a dynamite stick to it? Damn, okay, I'll think of some shit.
a, a dove that has acidic shit? So when it shits on a car, it just burns through it and blows it up.
Okay, but
You don't need to light it then.
you know how hard it is to teach a dove to crap on command?
Look, all they have to do is wash their car and somebody will go for it.
You would have one of these doves sitting on your shoulder like a giant colonel giving a speech to these army of people like, we're going to tell you our next move is, oh my God, and your freaking shoulder just falls off and the arm falls
Your
off.
arm. Yeah,
Shouldn't have kept
just
it on your
burns.
shoulder, bro. You're like a pirate with a parrot. I
So
want to
yeah,
I want to think of like if I was going to do something like that in apocalyptic wasteland, instead of having like a dove, I'd have like a vulture, and the vulture would be like um have like attached like a surveillance camera in its eye or something, so it would like fly above and be able to like monitor people, like be able to give you like literally a bird's eye view of things. But I don't know how much more creative I can get it, because I already bonded to that vulture that I just created 5 seconds ago. I don't want it to die, so I can't give him
what's his
acidic
name?
shit. I would call
You
him
need
Jerry. His name would be Jerry.
Jerry, yeah.
Jerry the
That
Vulture.
a very fitting name for a vulture.
And he eats people's fingers.
Yeah, it's a delicacy.
So you have some dude like pointing, all right, army, we're gonna attack, and he's
Yeah.
like throwing his arm forward, and his freaking vultures come by and eats the dude's finger. He's like, no, and then the dude sticks
Just
out.
hears,
The dude goes to flick the guy off, sticks out his middle finger. The thing just bites off his middle finger. He's like, son of a bitch.
yeah,
There's no texting anymore for you.
yeah. Jerry just like, take that, sucker.
What ideas have you thought of that haven't fit into the game? Like they just didn't really seem like they were gonna work out into it.
So the original idea of the game was a kind of fog of war game, kind of like Command and Conquer. So the idea was that you set off at one end of the map, and then and somebody set up somewhere else, and you both went out and explored, trying to find where each other was. But I quickly realized that I didn't really have a way of hiding where the other player was. So I distilled the idea down to, right, so what happens when they actually meet? And that's when the fight kind of part of it became the most important part. But yeah, up until that point, the idea was that you were you didn't know what was out there. You had to explore it first. Whereas now, the map, you can see it all once it's set up. You know where everything is. But just technically, for a board game, I didn't know how to didn't know how to kind of do that.
What's the most beneficial thing you've learned, at least doing this board game and kind of starting off your own? Because as we talked about before, it's not a very popular thing to want to design your own board game, but I think it's going to be a new trend coming out. People are going to start to notice like the importance of what those games were so beneficial. I mean, back in the day, that was a fun family game night thing. You would have a sit down with your family, sit down with your friends, play Yahtzee, play Uno, play cards, play Go Fish, Chinese checkers, Parcheesi, chess, whatever. You know, those were moments that made you really bond with your family. And I feel like now we're dealing with this period of isolation. People are looking to that again. I know a bunch of families, and I know a bunch of people I've talked to through the podcast that are sitting down with their family and cracking open a game of Monopoly, cracking open a game of Trouble, you know, and learning how much fun it is too, because the experience, like, oh, you just bought all my property and all that, or oh, you just won the game, like I'm pissed, you checkmated me basically. And it's like, I think those experiences, especially with Dungeons and Dragons, we've seen in high popularity come through. I think it's a new trend to capitalize on.
I think it used to be that if you were a geek, if you were a nerd, these things I'd say only recently have kind of came a bit more socially acceptable is probably the wrong way to say it, but like beforehand, you were kind of almost made fun of a little bit if you did these things.
Well, movies made it cool. Movies, Stranger Things, all this made Dungeons and Dragons so interesting. I mean, back in the day, you wore a fucking superhero t-shirt, you were considered a nerd. Now it's like
Exactly.
it's the
Everyone
popular
has them.
thing. Yeah. I wish I
Yeah.
was born later, I guess.
So yeah, so I think it's a general kind of culture shift to making all these things. Like when I was growing up, when I used to play it was a Mega Drive I had, but you would never see an advert on the telly for a computer game. No way. Whereas now you turn on the telly, you can see Call of Duty on there and Borderlands. It's big business now, and it's cool to be part of that now, and that's I think what's changed. And it's some people already did it, whereas now they can kind of freely admit that they do it. But there's a lot more people now saying, "Do you know what? Maybe this isn't what I thought it was. Maybe I should give this a try." And I think that's what we're seeing is just a lot of people just kind of letting their guard down a little bit and be willing to try a bit more of these kind of things that's out there now and realizing it's not what they thought it was.
Yeah, taking a shot. I think most people that play RPGs or MMOs, it's easier because they're probably by themselves, so they try and play online. But they probably have a lot more fun playing a board game because it's basically the same thing. It's that free creativity and that banter of being able to really experience something. I think that's why a lot of people, like we're talking about, both of us enjoy going off and doing just random stuff instead of doing the main mission or something. It's that power that you have. Like, I don't have to follow the rules if I don't want to. I can go off and do my own thing.
Well, I find with a board game, like even if I lose, like when I was younger, it used to be about winning, and that's all you cared
You
about.
flip the board if you lost. I understand that.
So now I still enjoy it even if I lose, and it's that whole dude, I almost had you. If I had one more turn, you were getting it.
You sunk my battleship. I understand that one entirely. That would end relationships in your family. Like you would get so angry at the last minute, you just flip over the board game thing. It's like, really, bro? Really? And you're like, really? Like, that's what's happening. It's like, okay, well, guess who's not getting dinner tonight? And you're like, I don't care.
Well, I'm the oldest of five, and at Christmas we used to play Monopoly. That was our kind of Christmas tradition, and then it stopped a few years back because there was a major falling out between the two brothers, and it still gets brought up to this day. It's still cast up whenever they have an argument, and yeah, we've never we've never went back to play it ever since then because yeah, they would just just shout at each other.
It's like sometimes you talk about like I remember used to playing Monopoly at my grandparents' house, and the Monopoly that came out with the credit cards. That was such a pain in the ass to try and keep track of all that money. Everything was in millions and billions. It's like, where's the ones? Where's the fives? Where's the hundreds? I got to keep checking this credit card machine that the banker's passing around just to be able to check my account balance. I'm like, this is too much like real world shit. It's like I already got bills. I got debt, bro. I got student loans in Monopoly.
Well, I think you also lose out on the tactile feeling of you can't beat sitting there with a big wad of cash.
Yeah. Feel like a
You know,
baller at that point.
yeah, you're just sitting there just riffling it all, just going like that. Make it rain.
I can't believe one time when I was a little kid, I went to a store with Monopoly money and thought I could pay for it. It was like a little toy, like register thing that came with like fake money. And I remember taking that out and be like, I'll pay with this. And the guy's like, that's not real money. Well, my mom tried so hard to keep me from that truth. She was just like, here's $5, gave it to the guy. And I was like, I just bought this on my own using the video game or using the toy money.
Yeah, yeah. The world's my oyster.
When you make an easy bake oven and next thing you know, you think you're a master chef, like, who wants donuts? It's like, what these donuts taste like shit. They're so dry. Does he not know this is raw dough because the easy bake oven's not gonna cook it?
It's got plasticine in it, Play-Doh.
Why does it taste like melted plastic? It's called Shrinky Doos, damn it. Well, I really appreciate you, Mark, for coming back out and doing the podcast, man. I know it's the third time, but like you said, third time's the charm. And I think we definitely got a better flow with the third time around.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, bros for life now.
Exactly. You know what? I'm going to add you on that Pinterest or LinkedIn, whichever one you want to find me at Farmer's Meat. Let's do it. Well, here, plug your Instagram page, plug where people can find your work too, so they can be able to follow your content, maybe check out your board game designs as well.
Yeah, so Games Wreck and Ruin. So I've got my own website. It's www.wreckandruingame.co.uk. You'll also find me on Facebook at Wreck and Ruin Game. And yeah, Twitter's rec _and_ruin. Pretty much you put those words in, you either get me or you'll get an album by, is it Casey Chambers? I think. You find one of us.
You're going to find either a classic mixtape or you're going to find an awesome ass board game. So, you know what? Check out the board game first and then head over to the mixtape. You can have some ambiance music to play while you're playing it, Wrecked and Ruin. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Out of the Blank podcast, and stay tuned for our next episode.